Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today is Sunday, January 8th, 2023. Hard to believe, a new year. Happy New Year, everyone. And this is the Morgellons Call of the Week. I'm Robin, the co-host, and today is going to be a very special day because we have a wonderful guest speaker, Lila, who's going to share her journey and her recovery with us. So, and also on the call is Richard Kuhns, the author of How to Get Your Life Back from Morgellons and Other Skin Parasites. And he is a leading expert on all of these skin parasites. Well, in my opinion, his book is a lifesaver. The diet is incredible, and I don't believe anything can work without it. And, you know, his book is like, I view it as an encyclopedia of all the choices we have of things to do to get our environment clear and our body healthy and well. And I'm so grateful that Richard keeps researching, keeps learning, is here to answer questions, answers emails when they don't get lost. And he cares a lot. He's been in the trenches, and he's here for us. So at this time, I want to welcome Richard Kuhns, author of How to Get Your Life Back, and it's going to be a great call today. Glad you guys are here.
Thank you, Robin. Pleasure to be here. When Robin says I've been in the trenches, what she means is that rather than being a researcher in some ivory tower designing studies, pilot studies, and working with people, taking blood serums and that kind of thing, I don't do that. I beat Morgellons. I beat Columbella. I beat Lyme disease. I beat Strongyloides cervicalis. I doubt that there's any ivory tower researcher who has come close to the experience that I have, that I passed along. And the crux of my success was being fortunate enough to discover the King diet, from now on going to be called the Morgellons diet. And today we are very fortunate to have someone who offered to share her experience on the journey. And I'm going to let Robin introduce her because Robin was her coach and is her coach. So, Robin, introduce our guest.
Okay. So, I have had the privilege and honor of coaching many, many people and seeing them get well. It's such a wonderful thing to be able to give and get rewarded that way. And the thing that I love about Lila is she has always been, she takes advice to heart. When we would have conversations, she would write notes. She would send them back to me in emails and say, did I get this right? She would create her own protocols based on the book, which is what we need to do because we have to tweak everything to work for ourselves. And she would ask me in-depth questions where she got stuck. I mean, she worked the program, and you know, the program works if you work it. And she had a wonderful attitude. She shared new information when she learned it. And I'm so glad that she's going to be on this call and speak with all of us. I have enjoyed every conversation I've ever had with her. You can tell by her tone of voice she's a warm, welcoming person, and she's a warrior, which is what we need to be. We are warriors in a battle, and if we don't give up, we win. So, welcome, Lila.
Thank you so much, Robin. Robin made me cry with that introduction. That was so nice.
Definitely. Welcome, Lila. So happy to have you on the program. Could you tell us a little bit about your early struggles, when you first noticed the symptoms, how you figured out what you might have, how you stumbled upon us? You know, give us a little history so that the people out there know that you're in the same boat that they are, or we're in the same boat?
Right. Absolutely. So I have been struggling with this for 3 years. I would say most days I'm 98% well as long as I follow my protocols. So I think I want to start out by saying to everyone that's just starting this, and, you know, this parasitical infections are probably the worst thing you can get in the entire world. It is incredibly depressing, but you cannot lose hope, and you have to know, and you need to say this to yourself every day, I am going to get better, because you will get better. It doesn't happen overnight, but it will happen. There are many people that have gotten better from this. It's just one more thing. So I don't know where I got this from. I wish there was more awareness regarding parasitical infections, because I think that if you catch this in time, you could really shorten the amount of time that you suffer. I basically worked in probably what is known as a sick building, meaning the HVAC system has difficulty, carpet isn't maintained. And I knew from kind of the first day that I walked in that it was a sick building, and I was there for 15 years and kind of struggled on and off. I remember my very first day walking in, my eyes started just itching, and I actually think that was probably the day I got infected. But my body was able to fight it off. I was, kind of dealing with everything. And then for about 6 months prior to that 3 years, I kind of entered a room in the building, worked there for a while, and just started getting bitten. And unfortunately, I think I carried whatever was in that room to my other office space. And I just kept getting these like little bites that kept getting worse and worse and worse. And then everything blew up. I have very good vision. I need to say that, because I can see a lot of things that other people can't see. I have 2013 vision, which is actually better than 2020. What other people see at 13 feet, I see at 20 feet. So when I see little black specks, I really see them. Like, I can see them. So I remember cleaning my house when all this like biting and itching was going on, and literally every surface of my house had little black springing organisms the size of a pin dot. Some were a little bit bigger, because Collembola can be a couple millimeters in size. I had white, I had black, I had globular, I had elongated, because Collembola come in all different shapes and sizes. Every drawer I opened, every piece of my house was infected.
Was anybody else affected in your home?
Initially, no. It was just me. I have a small family. I have a husband and a child who, when this started, was 6 years old, which was very challenging. And they sort of thought I was nuts. I think I was lucky. I happened to have read an article 2 or 3 years before about a mite infestation in a home. And I remember my blood running cold, going, oh my God, that has to be the worst thing to happen to anybody. And I had to put the article down. But it saved me a lot of time in researching this, because I knew immediately, oh my God, this is some kind of a mite or something. And so I started doing internet research. I came across another protocol first, some of which worked really well for me, and I kept. And then I came across your book, which, as Robin said, really is the encyclopedia and has really the most cohesive ways of dealing with this, and so many different ideas. If one doesn't work, another one does. And then that really helped me as well. But it's a long road to get well. None of this happens overnight. You have to be organized, you have to be relentless, and you have to know that you will get well, and you know that you are smarter than parasites.
May I ask you, what was your first impression of the idea of having to go on a diet?
I have other autoimmune diseases, so I've had to go on medical diets in the past, so it was not a far stretch for me. I'm also a qualitative researcher, so I'm a replicator, not an innovator. And so I read every book I could on this topic. I read every textbook on Collembola I could find. I read everything I could read. And every person that got well had to drastically change their diet. So to me, that was the qualitative proof. So I went on the King diet. I was absolutely perfect for 10 months. I was in stage 1 for a really long time. I never, unfortunately, had the diet just magically kick in and make the parasites go into a remissive state. My environment was so infested that I just kept getting reinfected again and again and again. But I lost 40 pounds in the diet. I felt great. We still follow a lot of the elements, such as using the rice bran oil, and I'm eating only specific types of bread. I can pretty much eat anything I want now. I have to avoid fruit and caffeine. I absolutely cannot have any caffeine. Even a cup of small green tea just triggers me. That is probably my...
I'm sorry, you can't have any what? I didn't get that.
Caffeine. No
caffeine.
Caffeine?
Like in coffee?
Yeah, absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely no caffeine, and very little fruit. I can have fruit in moderation. But other than that, I pretty much eat whatever I want. Like if I'm out at a restaurant.
Yeah, I like to point out something, because the diet actually, most people can have caffeinated coffee. In fact, decaffeinated coffee is a problem for most people. So it's important to know that we each are different. We have their idiosyncrasies. So the diet is pretty much on, but you really need to figure out if there's some idiosyncrasy that you have, that such as Lila, she can't have caffeine.
Right. And I think green apples were on stage 1. I cannot, to this day, cannot have green apples. So yeah, you just have to be really, you just have to really be careful. I am not the kind of person to keep a food log. I do it more holistically and just kind of figure out, what works and what doesn't work. But if you're eating meat and vegetables that are approved, you're gonna pretty much be good, and it's actually, a very healthy basis of a lot of other diets. So that was very important to me. I had absolutely no trouble following immediately, and my whole family followed it. Not my child, my husband, and I say this, I hate to say the word thank goodness he was affected by this, but I cannot imagine trying to explain to a spouse what you're going through when they are not affected. He's mildly affected, but he was affected, and so he was really on board with me. Thank goodness my child has never, ever been affected. My mother, unfortunately, got fully infected and has it just as bad as I do. She is not as compliant as I am. Although she does about 70% of things.
I like the use of that. Excuse me for butting in, but I like the use of that word, compliant.
Yeah. Her attitude is, I'm very old, I'm very tired, and I just can't. She's like, I just can't do every single thing. But as a result, I am unable to go into her home because it reinfects me. So that creates some family dynamic issues. As I think all of us dealing with this have. But now, as far as me, it was a long journey. But I really am 98% of the time good. So I guess my question for you is, what do you want me to talk about? How I clean?
Well, that's great. The next question, and I'm sure is on everybody's mind, is that you said it took a long time for you to make the diet work, and that was primarily because your house was totally infested and you were constantly being reinfected. So that is part. Number 1, make the diet work. Number 2 can be in this order, or clean your skin. Number 3, disinfect your home. Those 3 things done simultaneously. So I'm sure everybody wants to know, what did you do to get these things out of your home?
Right. Okay. So I tried everything. As I said, I started with a different protocol from a different person that cured themselves. So I did try cedar-side fogging, which I did not find to be super effective. And then I hit your book. So we cleared them out. I'm very allergic to pesticides. They show up on allergy tests. So I actually did not use any pesticides, which I sort of regret because I think it might have made things go quicker. We just did a ton of ozoning, a ton of spraying, a ton of mopping.
What did you spray? What did you spray?
With the enzymes, I used, I think it was, because it was easy for me to buy locally, I think I used Clean Free or Clean Green, one of the two. They're owned by the same company. They just use different enzymes in the yeast that they use. And I still do. I still spray with my sprayer. I can go over what my current protocol is and what my protocol to get well was. So my protocol to get well, we ozoned a lot. I got this from, I speak to everyone that I can about this, and a lot of the pesticide people really deal with, they know more than doctors do. If you want a diagnosis and how to deal with it, go find a pest expert. They're going to know more than the dermatologist, right? So, I would speak to different people, and this one guy gave me a protocol that we followed, and this was, again, I think it was even before I found your book. And we did 24 hours of ozoning. Now, before you fall off your chair, it's not straight. You do a half hour on, 2 hours off, half hour on. If you do ozone straight, you'll kill every single wire in your house. Your rubber bands will literally turn to mush, which has happened to me. And it turns into something called nosh instead of ozone, which is ineffective. So half hour on, 2 hours off, half hour on for 24 hours. I had 2 very large ozone generators going. And then you wait 5 to 7 days. During that time, you are spot doing each room. And then again on the 5th or 7th day, you do another 24 hours of ozone. You cannot be in the home during the 24 hours of ozone. And you do that for 3 weeks. And that was pretty darn effective. In addition, and this is the hard part, this is the part where you have to gulp and say to yourself, my life will never be the same. It's going to be different. And you know what? It's going to be better. There are graces to this disease. But your life is never the same. So the first thing I had to do was get very Buddhist, and I'm not Buddhist. And you have to let go of any material possession because they no longer matter to you, because nothing matters other than getting well. And that's my bit of advice to you. So we took 5 giant truckloads. We hired someone to the dump. I didn't try to save my carpets. I rolled up beautiful Persian rugs, and they went to the dump. I have 0 fabric in my home, 0, except for my bedding. I have no curtains. I have no carpets. I have nothing. I didn't have time to waste. I had waist-length hair. My hair is extremely short. And you know what? I like it better and I look cuter. So there you go. But don't even try to fix your hair with anything past your chin. It's not going to work. Sorry. Hey, it went from waist to back to shoulders, and then I just had to keep going. And so don't waste your time. Just get rid of your hair. So everything in my home is metal, plastic, vinyl, or ceramic. That's it. There's nothing else. I was incredibly infected by papers. I don't even try to ozone them or burn them in the oven or, poison them. I just scanned everything and went paperless. So if something comes into my house, it is scanned, it's gotten rid of. The paper for me was just horrific. So I know, I know people are listening to this woman sounds crazy, but it took a long time to do all of this. None of this happens overnight. I have all my tax returns, for 7 years, in case I'm ever audited in my garage with poison in it. And my joke is, if the IRS ever audits me, I'm going to be in a hazmat suit and say, you open the bin, have fun, go through it. It's all infected. So anyway, and then we're just going to toss them literally after 7 years, have them shredded and get rid of it. So we did all of that. We continued to ozone probably 3 days a week. And then once I discovered you and the protocol of spraying, I would spray in the morning, I would spray in the afternoon with the electrostatic sprayer. There were so many types of organisms in my home. I'm not sure if I was dealing with mites. I did have DNA done, and it came back as having nothing. But unfortunately, I didn't do the DNA until a year and a half passed because too much. It's too much. You can only do, so much. So it came back as nothing. I was like, oh, well, that's good. But I know I had Columbola. I verified them under microscopes. And the black Columbola, to me, was more aggressive than the white Columbola. The white, in my case, liked my clothes. The black just liked to bite me. And you can tell they're Columbola because, again, if you just like gently touch them with your fingertips, the full-grown ones, again, you can see they're a couple millimeters. They hop, they spring, right? That's why they're called spring tail. And so that's a really good test. They were not fleas. I know what fleas look like. Columbola are very, very easy to identify under a microscope. What was a mystery to me and was driving me nuts until I solved it, and Richard has this posted on his one of his blog posts that I sent him, but it was driving me nuts because I was getting just these black specks erupting all over my skin, which was very painful, and I would find black specks all over my house. I would find them all over my car, exterior and interior. I would find them, especially along your windowsills on the outside of your home. I would have hundreds of thousands of them. Just so when you would touch these black specks, they would hop. But when you would look under a microscope, they would just be a round black speck. And I'd be like, why are these things hopping? And the reason they're hopping is they're about to hatch. And anyway, I found this whole master's dissertation on it with pictures of how the organisms emerge. Columbola, unlike mice, molt. Okay, they don't go through stages like mice, nymphs, egg nymphs, so forth. They're always the same size, so they're a little bit different. They're not an arachnid like a mite. So anyway, that solved that problem for me. They also emerge with an umbilical cord, which is a little bit of a white filament. So some of those filaments you may be seeing on your skin are actually part of the Columbola egg hatching process rather than Morgellons. Not discounting the filaments for Morgellons, I have those too. It's just there's a complication, and I did have Morgellons with this as well. So, or whatever quote unquote Morgellons is. So how did I get them out of my car? Okay, so I lost one car. I could never ever clean it. Every time I would go in, I would be covered with hopping Columbola all over. We tried, again, a couple different protocols. We tried spraying, we tried ozoning, we tried everything. Please let me tell you from experience, you can over-ozone a car. I caused all the wires in the console in the front to melt. And when I would drive my car, my horn would just beep uncontrollably, like, and I'd be like, I'm so sorry, I'm not honking at you. So, and also we destroyed both of our door locks, power door locks. And let me tell you, that's very, very expensive. I did finally find an ozone machine that I'm very happy with that does not seem to be overly strong. And it's by Ethereal. It's the PA1K portable.
I have
What's
that one.
cool about it is you can plug it. And Richard, I can send you a list of all of these that you can post so people don't have to take notes. But you can actually plug it in to recharge it, which is so great, in the house, just a regular charger. And then you just throw it in your car. I put it on for an hour because that's the least amount of time that I don't have to come back and turn it off. And I'll put that on for an hour. But what we found to be really effective over time is two different things. One, the Nuvon strips that Robin and Richard talk about are very effective. They are very, very toxic. You do need to wear a mask and gloves when you handle them. But I got this idea from Amazon reviews from truck drivers that had major bed bug infestations in their truck cabs. And what one guy did was hang strips in his cab for 7 days, keep it sealed up. Again, when you open the door to release, make sure you're wearing a respirator and gloves. You're going to remove those, bag them. It can even get through certain types of plastic. So you have to really make sure you're bagging it appropriately, like not in a trash can that has those little teeny holes to stretch. Be very, very, very careful. And then the bed bugs were gone. And I'm like, well, I'm going to try this for the Columbola. So we did not do it on our car because of a small child and the pesticides, but we did it on my mom's car, and it worked beautifully. 7 days was great. I think if you have the ability to leave your car for a full 3 weeks and get that full egg cycle with the Nuvon strips, I think it would be very helpful as well. And then the other magic thing we found, and I got this idea again from a mite expert, is to Scotch guard everything in your car. So if you have carpet on the floor, you just Scotch guard it. And what happens is any eggs that are there, they just are like frozen. They can't hatch because they've been Scotch guarded. So we Scotch guarded the upper fabric on the car. We Scotch guarded the floor. We ozone all the time. We spray. And really, we've managed to resuscitate one of the cars quite well. The other trick, and I got this from a book that is not going to help you get well, but if you want to read and feel someone else's pain through this journey, she doesn't offer clear protocols at all. It's called A Year of the Mite. But if you want to, you hate that book. Oh no. Well, the one thing I liked from the book, and I thought it was a great suggestion.
Yeah.
Oh, the one thing I liked from the book that I thought was
good. It's a hard book to read.
It is. The one thing I liked from her suggestion, and you don't even need to read the book. She has a website. Is that she said if you can buy a car without carpet, it's really helpful. And boy, was she right.
Right.
So Honda and Toyota used to make cars without carpet. Ford still makes cars. You can afford a Range Rover. I think they even have them. That's not in my budget. And I did buy a car without carpet, and oh my God, is it the best thing ever. You literally can like rinse the bottom out. There's a plug. It comes out. But if you can't do that, at least replace your car mats with rubber mats, Scotch guard everything. It really does help. And then, of course, at some point you do need to run your air conditioning and heater with the ozone on in order to get all of that. I don't do it anymore because I'm lazy and my car's in good shape, and I can just do the ozone. I do it a lot. I do it like 3 to 4 times a week, and my car has not been damaged at all.
Right.
The other trick I learned from another.
Great. And the other thing is, don't forget the cabin filter. Replace the cabin filters. And the car from Honda, it was designed for dog owners. So it was awesome, but they haven't made them in 12 years. So if you can find an older one with low mileage, that would
I think it was the Honda Element. The new Ford Broncos have all rubber floors. You can get a Chevy truck. You can get a Ford truck they call it carpet free. You have to order it without it, and it just comes with vinyl. So helpful, like life-changing. The other piece, and I don't know if this helped, again, this came from someone else's protocol, but it's to pour 99% alcohol into your seats to try to, kill everything. And then this was the other thing that came from another protocol that I do find really helpful, but I used it with a brand new car, and that is you buy wet seal material seats to cover your seat. And they're so easy to clean and just wipe if you want to use ammonia on them or enzyme or NG. And then you just don't touch the underside of the seat. I have a really bad reaction to ammonia, and I think Richard talks about that in the book. Like, I feel like I'm going to die around anywhere near ammonia. So I do use 99% alcohol, and I have found that 91 to 99%, I have found that to be effective. You cannot use 40 or 60%. That's like the bugs laughing at you, right?
I would
so anyway, I'll just alcohol all my seats down.
Have you tried 75%? Because I think it's hard to find 99%.
You can order it right on Amazon, Selima.
Okay.
91, 92, anything above, and you can find it. Prior to the pandemic, it was so easy and so inexpensive. Then it got really hard. I had to order it from labs, but now it's easy again. You can just order like an entire case of them in bottles, and it's pretty reasonable as well. So I use that on everything. Like, if I sit down at my computer, everything is wiped down immediately with alcohol. Everything is sprayed. I do want to say 2 things more about my house, which I think was helpful. I remember a guest speaker on one of these calls a long, long time ago. I think she was a holistic doctor, maybe 2 years ago. And she really talked about how to get rid of the Morgellons. She really had to change her HVAC system out. And so I asked accidentally changed my HVAC system out. I didn't mean to, but we were having all these problems. And the guy explained to me, you know, it's going to cost you like $100 for me to just take all this stuff out. I'm like, well, then do it. And oh my gosh, like overnight change in the Morgellons. And so how I would experience the Morgellons, which I think is how a lot of people experience it, is as just like fibers floating all through the air and just like constantly being reinfected. And once I changed my HVAC out, even though I was ozoning with my HVAC, it was like night and day. Huge improvement. The other thing I did was I resealed all my wood floors. Huge improvement as well.
Excuse me, are you saying the HVAC system, the ductwork
Yes, I didn't change. My ductwork was not rigid metal. It was like that floppy stuff, which isn't that expensive to just get a whole new.
Yeah, because that's pretty cheap to change HVAC out.
That part was cheap. If you have to actually change all your ducts, I can't even imagine what that would cost.
Yeah, so, it could be quite a bit, right?
Yeah, it might be quite a bit. I think with a good ozone machine, you know, you really should be able to clean most of that out.
But it's something it's something everybody should be prepared to do. If you can't get them out of your environment, and if you're standing in front of your ductwork and where it's coming out, the heat or air conditioning is coming out, and you constantly feel things landing on your face, on your body, and biting you, and no matter what you do, you can't get it out of your HVAC system, you may want to do that rather than change houses.
Right, and I think Richard and Robin have both said this. You know, of course, we were so tempted to just move with a toothbrush and nothing else. But you are the carrier. Wherever you go, you're going to bring this. Right. So it is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I will tell you, like, at 6 months, I was like, I feel great. I can't believe I feel this great. And then 3 months would pass, and I go, oh, my God, I'm so much better than I was 3 months ago. And then another 3 months would pass. So, you know, my improvement I just kept feeling better and better and better and better and better all the time. I do have I just want to talk about like supplements and stuff. I am not
before you do that, you were sharing with me what you did outside. Now, Robin introduced me. Okay. Yeah, Robin introduced me to the Garden Safe Fungicide 3, which I personally love, and you're using
PCO.
PCO. Okay. Yes. Tell us about that.
Sure. So my outside was ridiculous. I think my whole community is infested. I know I walk into certain big box stores that I don't go to anymore, and things just start. Like, you can literally see them hopping on you. I'll talk about clothing in a second and being very careful what you buy. But for the outside, I called, pest control people, and one of the guys' jokes was, look at how, my paragraph on how to get rid of fleas is 4 sentences. My paragraph on how to get rid of collembola is 14 pages long, and he wasn't kidding on his website. You have to treat your entire yard as being infested. You can't treat, they're just under this slab. So if you have good vision, or someone in your family does, I would recommend doing the black plastic bag and the white plastic bag test. I could literally go out in my backyard and hold up a black plastic bag for 1 minute, and it would be covered with white collembola. I could go out in my backyard and I'm holding up in the air, I'm not touching the ground, and I hold up a white one, and it would be covered with black collembola. I had hundreds and thousands along my windowsills. I would move rocks, and there would just be like hundreds of thousands of white ones jumping. I'm like, this is beyond. So what I did is, I really do love this PCO wash from Cedarside, PCO Choice, from Cedarside. I use it for my laundry, which is from another protocol that did work for me that I kept, and I don't do well with ammonia, so that was my alternative. But all you do with this PCO Choice is they send the sprayer with you. It attaches to your garden hose, and you put just a little bit in, like a quarter of a cup. They'll tell you the amount. You fill it with water from your garden hose. You don't need gloves. It's non-toxic. It's literally just cedar oil and some other stabilizers. And you're just going to spray your whole yard when I was first, dealing with this, I sprayed my whole house. Sprayed the sides, sprayed the windows, I sprayed all my trees, I sprayed the exterior of my car, I sprayed the sidewalk. I sprayed everywhere. And I did it every 2 weeks, and it took a really long time. There are much more toxic chemicals you can use in your yard if you want to speed things up. But I was good with this because the cedar oil turns into carbon, and it actually feeds the soil. It is a contact killer, meaning there is no residual effect. Once it's dried, it will not kill anything anymore, which is why you have to do it every 2 weeks. Please do it early morning or after dusk, because if bees and butterflies hit it, they will be affected as well, and they aren't usually active in the morning or at dusk. I, as a result, have far less mosquitoes and far less ants. So it's been a win-win all around. So I will probably do it every 2 weeks for the rest of my life. Luckily, a little bit goes a long ways. Like everything with this disease, everything costs money, and that is the annoying piece of this. But you can buy a huge container of it, and it will last you, 6 months to a year at least, and that's good. So that works for my outside. I can now, walk on paths and nothing's attacking me. If I turn my rocks over, there's no longer white jumping things. There's no longer things along my window. But don't be afraid to spray like your roof, to all of your house. I mean, I just spray that stuff everywhere. And again, it's water and just a little bit of cedar oil. The other thing I will say is, I do like to use cedar oil on my wood floors. I do not use Cedarside. I use Dr. Benza-Victor because it has silica, which also is important. Cedarside changed their formula a few years ago, and they no longer have silica. So I use Dr. Benza-Victor indoor and personal bug spray, and that stuff works with Columbola. I do that once a week. I just mop the floors with this oil. I will say as a disclaimer, if you have sealed wooden floors with polyurethane, you are technically not supposed to use oil on them. So do not blame me. If it affects your floors, it has not affected mine. I find it very, very, if I'm feeling a little bit of jumping activity and I, spray an ozone and I do this on the floors, they're just gone. They're just gone. And so that's really helpful. Yeah, what do you want me to go over next? What works?
You said you were talk about supplements?
Sure. So I'm not the poster child for supplements. Because I have a chronic pain disease that affects my bladder, a lot of what I put in my body then triggers that, which is actually more pain than the bugs. So I just am very careful with what I take. What I have found to be most effective is I was on Lucentrin for a year, completely helped me. There's also
okay. In case people had a trouble understanding what you said Lucentrin, right?
Yes, Lucentrin.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And there's a blog post on what I went through. I went on a massive die-off on my skin. I just got these horrible pimples all over my. My infection was predominantly, for some reason, they were on my chest, my shoulders, and under my neck. I would have like 40 pimples under my neck.
So, okay, now let me just please interject something. Lucentrin, for those of you who may not be familiar with it, is a pet medication that you can get from a website called shop4Morgellons.com. But what it's used for is it's used for fungal organisms and helping inhibit the production of chitin. And chitin is the substance that the eggs are made of, that mites lay, columbola lay. So it inhibits it inhibits them from being matured. Chitin is also in the mouth parts of these organisms. So that's the value of adding Lucentrin.
Right, and clearly I was dealing with some kind of fungal organism that was probably attracting the columbola to my body because that is all they eat. They are mold and fungus eaters. So and by the way, I didn't have any of these pimples before I went on Lufenerin. It was like a die-off of my body cleaning this out. I looked at photos the other day. It was truly horrifying, you guys. Like, it was gross. And so they would come into these big pimples and kind of erupt. And at the center of every single pimple, as they dried up and went away, was a little hard grain of sand, which is kind of familiar with what we emit with Morgellons, and a single clear filament. That was what was what was in each one of these. And they cleared after about 2 months, and I've never gotten them back again. I was on Lufenerin for a year. I went, after I did the initial 96 days or whatever it is daily, I spoke to Nancy at Lou for Life, and she told me to go down to 3 days a week, so I did that. And I probably would have been on it forever, except I developed a really bad allergic reaction to it. If I get a pill within 1 inch of my lips blow up, and I look like a duck.
Wow.
I had to stop taking Lufenerin, but I've been off it for like 2 years, and I'm doing fine, so I think it did its job. I did introduce is it Nitinprium? How do you say that, Richard?
Nitiperam.
Okay. I did introduce Nitiperam 3 months ago, and I love that stuff. My final piece that I still am struggling with on my body is my forehead and my cheeks, right by my ears. Everything else is fine, but that's my last thing that I can't totally get complete. And boy, has that helped with that. Also, just to back up for a second, so I was working in a very traditional job that would have had absolutely no flexibility. I was dying in this fully infested building. I would literally sit at my desk just weeping. I was having black junk coming out of my body. I was being bitten constantly. I could literally see Columbola hopping around. This was in an office tower. There was no way with a combined,
Are you still working there? Are you still working there?
No, so there are 4,000 people in the building. There was no way I could clean this place. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And then the pandemic hit. And for me, it saved my life because I was able to go home, work from home in one environment that I could get well.
Now, I'd like to backtrack just one moment before I forget, because you introduced a medication called Nitiperam. And for those of you who are new and unfamiliar with it, this medication was introduced about maybe a year and a half ago by the same people that produce the Lufenerin, shop4morgellons.com. And this is a medication, another pet medication that destroys skin mites. And basically, once you take one tablet of this, within 30 minutes, it destroys the skin mites on your skin. It's that fast.
Yeah, it's been amazing for me, and it's allowed me to go back. It's really helped me go back to work. So after we were done with the pandemic, we did need to return to office, or as done as we are, to return to the office. And I will never re-enter that building as long as I live. So I switched jobs, and again was very nervous though because I hadn't, kind of been out of my little bubble. And it's been great. It's not an infected place, but I do find that by taking this, we call them the puppy pills, Richard. So the nits or whatever. So that my husband calls them. So we take the puppy pills. We love them, and I take them 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and that works for me. But I feel like if anything jumps on me, it's like, dude, you're just dead. So
you're a goner.
Yeah, so that's been great. So we take the puppy pills, and that's kind of all I tried. I dabbled with different dopamine things, and nothing worked for me.
Did you try the Parasite Stop herbal formula?
I did, and I had a little bit of a bladder reaction. It's just I'm so sensitive.
Yes, there are so many herbs in there. In fact, even the person who invented it can't take it because she has reactions. So it's incredible. If it works, it's incredible. But you you could be allergic to some of the herbs.
Yeah, I'm very careful. I will say, and I know Richard likes to ask, how was your experience with doctors? I told him the other day on the phone, I was like, well, it was great. I just didn't talk to any of them.
What was that?
I said I just didn't talk to any of them. I just didn't go to doctors, and that seemed to work just fine.
So from the very beginning, you never went to a doctor or consulted a doctor about what was happening with your skin?
Oh, no, there was, I mean, I knew there was absolutely no point after reading your book and reading everything else that they were completely ill-equipped to deal with this. I will say, because of my other chronic autoimmune issues, I already had a good network of people in place that trust me and believe me. But they're completely, they can't help you with any of this because it's not their area of expertise. I did speak to the doctor that you work with, and he was lovely and amazing. And we did try some different, like LDN, which unfortunately caused insomnia for me. And we tried. I'm so hard. I'm just so sensitive that I just was like, okay, my body's gonna heal on its own. I will tell you what helped me, and it surprised me. I had been going to acupuncture for 15 years, and when this happened, I was like, oh, well, she's not going to be able to help me. And then finally, after about 6 months into this, I'm like, well, I'm just going to try. I was shocked, you guys. I mean, normally when I do acupuncture, and the needles go in, there's no response. She listened to me. She read your book, Richard. She read everything I gave her, and she's like, well, I'm going to do an anti-parasitic treatment with, needling. And oh, my God, she put the needles in. They swelled up in welts all over my body. But I'm telling you, after about 6 treatments, I stopped having that reaction, and I started feeling so much better. And that was the same time I was on the Lufenerin. So I think the Lufenerin and the acupuncture at the same time was actually really helpful. And she's also helpful. I know you don't like muscle testing for pills, but she's really helpful with dosages for me because of my sensitivity. So I will hold whatever she's testing me on, and she'll test like the number of pills that I should be taking and so forth. And that's been helpful for me. So acupuncture was a surprisingly helpful thing.
What I'd like to say about muscle tensing is that I believe muscle tensing is fantastic if the therapist does not tell you what it means. If he does not say to you that because your arm went down, that's going to be a problem, or because your arm was strong, that's not going to be a problem. If he just does his test and doesn't explain anything to you, then you don't have a suggestion in your mind that it's good or bad, or could be good or bad. But all of them that I know of tell you, they explain it to you.
Yeah. Well, what she does is let's say I want one thing tested, she tests me on 4 things, so I don't know which one it is, right? So that helps make it a little bit more, like you don't know what's going on. But anyway, I do. So if you want to try that, I did find it to be helpful. But if you just did acupuncture alone, absolutely you would not get well. like don't think that's gonna fix it. You have to do everything.
No one thing is gonna fix it.
No. So, yeah, and it's just time. And, I am a very upbeat person, but, the depression with this is brutal, because you're just in constant pain and agony, and you're working so hard. And so, I hear you, I see you, I feel you. You just have to know you can get well from this. You are going to get well from this. So what I found helpful is I'm sorry I'm such a rebel, Richard. I don't take baths because I have 2 issues with my knees and I can't get out of the tub. So I just took showers. It is possible to get well from showers. I am obsessed with Richard's liquid peppermint soap. I use it all over my body. For me, it really works. I use it in my hair. What finally worked for me for hair protocol, hair of course was horrible like everybody. What I do now to maintain, and I have no problems with my hair, I take the liquid peppermint soap, I put that in my hand, or I use NG and I just drop a couple drops in there. And I got this from Richard's book, but it's the Ovante shampoo for head dermatitis. Basically, it's skin mites. Oh my God, I love this stuff so much. So I do that at the beginning of my shower. I put the NG or the peppermint soap with the Ovante all through my scalp with my short hair. Gotta go short, everyone. All over, and I just leave it there. So by the time my shower's done, it's been about 15 minutes. And then I rinse it out, and then I do it again with just the Ovante. That second is really, really important. And then if you're really infected, I would do a third time, and then get out, and I blow dry my hair, always bone dry. For me, if there's any moisture, that's where I have problems, like where your bra line is, or hair, or ear, or anything that has moisture. So my hair has to be bone dry. When I was really sick and infested, throughout the day, I would make a mixture of tea tree oil. Where are my notes? I want to make sure it's right. Tea tree oil, peppermint oil, and oil of oregano and NG, and I would mix them together in a cup, and I would add just a little bit of water, and then I would take a scalp massager and scalp and do it all through my hair till it was fully saturated, but not super dry. And then I would just let it dry, because I didn't get it very wet. And then
I'm sorry, you use those oils 100%, the essential oils with the NG?
Yep.
Nature's Gift is what she's referring to, if anybody's not familiar with the term.
Yeah, 100%, not a lot of them, just a few drops. Your scalp, has a very thick, oily coating on it, and it takes the undiluted to get to the scalp. And then I would, 3 or 4 hours later, I felt itchy. I would just do that again to my scalp.
And those oils didn't burn? They didn't burn your skin?
Nope.
Okay.
They felt tingly, but not. But don't put them on your face. Don't put them anywhere else. I'm only talking about your scalp.
Not around your private parts or your eyes or your nose.
No. Oh, private parts. This is a great Chinese medicine that is known for like a genital wash, and I did find it very, very helpful. It's called Yin Care, YIN Care. You can buy it on Amazon, and it'll give you directions for diluting it, and you can, I did find it very helpful. And if you have any other gynecological issues, it'll just get rid of them. So I've used that for years and years, and I did find it helpful with the parasites. But now I just I wash my hair once a night. I blow dry it. I'm completely fine. Like I said, my last little places are my forehead and right by either side. But the puppy pills are really helping with that. Now, I also want to say,
puppy pills.
I got this from Robin, and for my eyes, the thing that finally cleared them up, because they were horrible, and my ears were horrible too, is she was recommending colloidal silver. I needed MSM and colloidal silver. So you can buy, eardrops, eye drops. The ones I use are by Good Health Naturally, MSM and silver, and you just drop them in your eyes, drop them in your ears, and boy, that cleared it up. For your nose, again, I'm lazy. I sound like I'm not lazy, but I really am. I want to do as little as possible with this. I would kind of clean my nose out with some NG or the peppermint soap, which I told you is like all I use. And then I would line my nose with like a zinc oxide and a titanium dioxide. And that is also very helpful for your skin if you have an itchy area. My protocol is typically, my forehead's itching, so I wash it with peppermint soap. And then I put a little liquid cat's paw, and I put sunblock with titanium and zinc oxide. And the theory is the cat's paw kills whatever's there, and then the titanium and the zinc dioxide actually suffocate. So very effective. Very effective.
I'm not sure exactly what you were saying. Test cloth, you were saying?
Oh, liquid cat's claw.
Oh, cat's claw, C-A-T, cat's claw. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
you use that a lot with Lyme disease. And I know Robin has found a lot of effectiveness with using zinc oxide as well. Correct, Robin?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So that's really, really helpful. And that's it. That's all I do now. I'm pretty low key about it. You do want to vacuum daily if you can. I'm very lazy, so I like to do the minimal. I get a stick vacuum when everything's really infected. Just zip up a little bit of DE in your vacuum. I didn't bag my vacuum and all of that. I'm like, please, I don't have time for that. But if you just suck up a little diatomaceous earth, it'll kill whatever you suck up. And make sure you get a HEPA filter. So
it's a trap.
Well, yeah, it's like a trap. And then make sure the person that's emptying the vacuum is the person that doesn't get infected, right?
Or wearing long gloves and protected.
Yeah. So that's sort of where I'm at right now. And yeah, I mean, right now we maintain pretty well. Oh, I think the one thing I am good at is figuring out like alternatives for life. For example, my mouse pad is made of metal. My wrist rest is made out of jelly, like a plastic, because I am not having anything fabric next to me. Why take the risk? I only wear Crocs. You'd be surprised how cute Crocs are, and they come in boots. Or I wear any other EVA shoes, like Native Jeffersons or, whatever. And my protocol for that is I have literally 99% alcohol sprayers in every room in my house. I walk in for my street shoes, which are Crocs. I slip into flip-flops. I spray my shoes down, front and back, let them dry. Now I'm in my flip-flops. Now I'm around the house, Before bed, when I get in the shower, I take my flip-flops, I spray them down with alcohol and rub them on both sides, and then they dry while I'm in the shower. I get back out. Now I'm in perfectly clean shoes. So, and then in the morning, I spray my shoes back down with alcohol, front and back, and let them dry, and then I get into my shoes and I walk, out to my car. So everything is very controlled. All my clothes are in airtight bins. I recommend not having a lot of clothes and don't spend a lot of money on them, because when you're getting well, they're going to get infected. I have the 3 strikes rule with my clothes. So if I put on a pair of pants and I feel itchy, they get an X on the back with permanent marker on the tag, and they get thrown in, a sealed laundry bin. And then if I wear them again and I get itchy again, they get another X. And the third time, they get thrown in the trash, because that means there's something wrong with this garment, whether it's fungal, bacterial, viral, parasitic, who knows? I don't care. I don't have time to deal with you. And I try to not spend more than $10 for a pair of pants. I try not to have a lot of clothing. I know people really try to save their clothing. I just threw all of mine away. It was so infected. It just had white columbola hopping everywhere. And I mean, that's the full grown. You're not seeing the eggs or anything else because they're too small. So yeah, I just got rid of all my clothes, got down to just a few pieces that you rotate. Let me talk about beds. So I went to an air mattress immediately, which is great when you're fully infested, because you can lift the thing up, you can spray it, you can rub it down, you can vacuum it. It's awesome. But it causes permanent disabilities to your body. So after the air mattress, I switched to a waterproof mattress for urinary incontinence. Not the most comfortable thing in the world, but so easy to clean. I cannot even tell you. The place I got it from, it does have a vent on the end of the mattress, but I was concerned about that. I spoke to the owner, and he's like, no, it's for mice can't get through it. I'm like, okay, and I've had mine for a year. I haven't had any problems, but it is just so pleasant to lift it up and wipe the whole thing down, and so I recommend that as a long-term thing. What I probably will do, because they're not very comfortable. I mean, after 8 hours you want to get out of that bed, is I will buy a regular mattress and I will have this company make a custom cover that zips on, and the kind of zippers they have are made for like watertight sealing.
So,
I found
just interrupt for 1 second. Memory foam mattresses are incredibly comfortable, and they are somewhat parasite and mite resistant, but with the really inexpensive mattress zippered vinyl covers, and you can put menthol crystals or Nubon strips inside the zippered vinyl covers. I've done that to all of I have 4 mattresses in my home, and and I've done that to pillows as well, and I just use regular. I haven't had a problem with the bed or pillows since I did that.
That's great. I was having some problems with them ripping. Maybe I wasn't buying the right kind.
Yeah, you have to. They have to be zippered vinyl, and they have to be the heaviest vinyl that you can find. You have to read the different ones.
Yeah.
But if they say bed bug proof and they're expensive and they're some kind of shiny fabric, they're not going to work.
Right. And that's great. And I think that's what I so appreciate about Richard and Robin, is that everyone, right, there's no right way to do this. You have to figure out what works for you, right?
That's very important. May I ask you, do you think any of this would have been possible without the diet?
I don't think so. And again, I've done a medical diet before for my bladder disease. Diet is the foundation of every medical issue, right? I mean, literally. So no, I think it's very, 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 very important.
So that is the most important thing, is make the diet work. Now, as Robin often says in her introductions, is that each of you are my research team. And I've learned an incredible lot of information listening to Lila here today that I'm going to go back and review the tape, and I'm going to include it in my book, because there is no right way. It's a matter of figuring out what works. Many people write to me and say, hey, well, should I continue Nitin or whatever? I don't know. You got to figure it out. You got to figure out what works. We have no diagnostic test for these things. And if you're all stressed out, and you mentioned that depression was a big issue, how did you deal with the depression?
I think my depression was also partially because, I was locked in a house during COVID, but I reached out and got therapy once a week on Zoom. That was very, very helpful to just, my poor therapist has to hear about parasites constantly. I feel so bad for her. That was very helpful. Just getting up, doing something. For me, work, having something to take my mind off it is very important. I became like a workaholic and worked like 16 hours a day, but which isn't a healthy reaction. But research for me works. Trying to figure out a puzzle. Like this to me was a puzzle. How do we solve it? But it is crippling. I mean, it is so hard. That's why I just needed someone to keep telling me every day, you're going to make it through this. You are going to get well, and you are. And, my goal, like on my vision board, is me opening a closet with clothes hanging in a row. And I know I'm going to get there, right? It's just time and, like, really, really, really figuring everything out. So yeah, I mean, talking to a friend, I had my spouse who, at least sort of understood what I was going through. My child thinks I think I've damaged my child forever. She thinks I'm crazy because thank God she's not, doesn't experience this. Yeah, it's really hard. I read a lot. I find the things that give you joy. I read a lot of books. When you're down, figure out and binge something on Netflix that you love. Just find those joys, those pieces of joy. But know that as long as you're trying, as long as you're figuring stuff out, you're going to get well. I think the worst thing that you can do is give up and say,
it's typically 2 steps forward and 1 step back. How do you deal with the back steps? When it slaps you upside the face, when you think you got it all figured out, then you're doing the right thing, then bang, it's not working. You ever have that happen?
Absolutely. There's always that one jewelry box you didn't disinfect, and you open it, and you're like, ah, because you feel them jumping right on your face. And that's just part of this. You kind of have to be at peace that this is a journey. This is not, I think this is important to know at the very beginning when you start this. And there is like a mourning process because your life is never going to be the same. And this isn't like, oh, I'm going to go get some medicine and this is 30 days. No. Your life is over, but there are graces. And the graces for us, and my husband still talks about this, is we have so much less crap in our life. And it is liberating to get rid of stuff and junk. You don't need it. I love my hair being short. I love that we're paperless. You don't need all that paper in your life. So those have been the graces that I think we never would have gotten to. I think I have a different perspective on the world and like disease and parasites and pandemics because of this. I don't mean to sound like, a negative Nelly, but I think there's some dark things going on in the world, and unfortunately, maybe we're seeing them before other people are. And I look at that as a grace as well. Like, I'm learning to deal with this before other people have to deal with this, So as I watch people around me, and they're not itching because they're near me, they're just itching because they have issues. And, people keep saying to me, gosh, I just feel like I'm getting bitten. I'm like, yep. So, I help when I feel it's appropriate, but a lot of times people are not, they don't want to hear about this. I told very few people about this. I told maybe 3 or 4 friends. It's very, very hard for people to understand this because it feels like you're in a science fiction movie, I think if friends want to understand, I have them watch the documentary on Amazon Prime on Morgellons. Even though it doesn't talk about parasitic co-infection, it at least gives an idea of like what people go through. I can't think of the name of it at the moment, but it's free on Amazon Prime, and it kind of humanizes what the suffering with this. So, and for a long time, I really wanted to figure this out because, like I said, I'm a trained researcher, and I really wanted to figure out the puzzle pieces. And then at a certain point, I sort of was at peace that that's not my job to figure it out. What my job is to just feel better and get well. And Richard, I did want to tell you I did test positive for Lyme disease. I put off taking the test because it was so expensive, and I almost fell over 2 years ago when I did test positive. I don't have a lot of the symptoms of Lyme other than having Morgellons, but I found that very interesting that I live in a part of the country where Lyme is not common. Ticks are not common. I live in California. So I found that very interesting and kind of validating as well.
Great. Well, not great that you have Lyme disease, but
no.
I mean, I want to thank you so much, Lila, for coming on and sharing your experience. It's been uplifting. It's been informative. I could take what you shared here today and add 10 pages to my book, and probably will do that because we learn from each other. I know a lot, but I don't have all the answers, and we've figured it out. I've learned a lot from Robin and her experiences, and we integrate all of this and help each other.